Welcome to the Misophonia Podcast. This is Season 4, Episode 10. My name is Adil Ahmad, and I have Misophonia. This week, I'm talking to Patrick, a musician currently in college studying music therapy. Patrick is one of many creative people I've had on the show, and there are lots more coming up this season. I love having artists on. We talked today about how his mom might have miso, how his older sister would tease him about it, and his search for a therapist. This is the first time Patrick has talked to anyone publicly about miso, and as always, I'm grateful to see people coming out and sharing their story. Well, I know I've had a few episodes in the past week, so let's just get to this week's conversation with Patrick. Patrick, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So I don't know how many episodes you've heard, but I just kind of like to find out where people are from.
Yeah, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, but I'm in Boston now. I'm a student, so.
Okay, cool. Are you in college, I'm assuming?
Yeah. This is my second year here. Yeah.
Gotcha. Are you all remote right now still?
Yeah. Well, we're doing like a little bit of a hybrid, but I opted to do completely remote still, so that's what I'm doing now.
Was that partly a miso related choice?
No, not really. It's more of just like a precautionary measure, but it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because I go to a music school, so I'm just constantly surrounded by sounds everywhere there. So.
So you're in college at a music school.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. What, are you a musician, I'm assuming? What do you play?
Yeah. Well, I go to school for bass, guitar, and I play guitar too, and I write songs and all that. So I guess it's in a way kind of ironic, but in another way not so much, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean there's been a number of I know a number of musicians obviously who have miso, and I mean it's sound sensitivity, so it's not surprising that a sharp musician would also have this kind of affliction. So I guess maybe how's it been at your college, like when you have been on campus, miso wise? Because for a lot of people it's kind of like their often their first time away from home, where they actually are most familiar with their environment, and now they're kind of in a new domain. How was it, at least in your first year?
For me, the music part of it itself was never a big issue for me. It was honestly more of just the basic classroom stuff that would kind of get to me. I think a misconception that a lot of people have about music school is that it's like you're playing music all the time, but it's a lot more like any normal institution. So I guess it's just like the quiet classrooms that are my big problem and have been since I was a kid. I know when I was younger, my mom used to say a lot that, like, when she would drop me off at school, she'd be like, I don't even know how he makes it through the day. So, I mean, and in college, the thing that's different about it is that I can kind of just, like, if it gets really bad, I can kind of just walk out, which I have done on numerous occasions.
Yeah, when we're older, we have a little bit more control to be assertive of our environment, and in college in general, you're kind of master your destiny.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you allowed to then just walk out? Is it like a big scene, or is it just something you got to do what you got to do?
Well,
you smash your bass again at the beginning of the class, in front of the class.
No, I don't think anybody. I've never like told any of my teachers or anything why. If it just got, I could usually find a way to manage, but if for whatever reason I couldn't, I would just kind of sneak out at a certain time and they wouldn't really notice. I mean, it's kind of a last resort type of thing, but yeah.
Are you allowed to wear earbuds or headphones in class?
Yeah, I think I could, and nobody would really notice. But to be honest, I never really even thought to do that until recently. I never really wore them at
Hmm.
all until a few months ago. Um, I feel like it would probably work pretty well in a classroom setting though, because usually the things that are bothering me in that setting are generally the sounds of people breathing that I think could be pretty easily drowned out with not even a great pair of earbuds or anything.
Right. I mean, if it's breathing, then yeah, some white noise, brown noise could probably do the trick.
Hmm.
And then it wouldn't affect if your class happens to be like a interactive class or discussion class.
Yeah.
Um, so okay. So you haven't mentioned to any of your teachers. Actually, we talked a little bit before. And you haven't really mentioned this to anybody. It seems like, right? You haven't talked about it to with anybody.
I mean there are people that know about it. I'm definitely a little bit like I'm not too frugal talking about it, I guess, because I don't know. Some people don't really think that it is a real thing. Some people are more supportive than others, and I still have a lot of friends back home that kind of like to tease me, and they kind of think that it's like a more of like a just being too sensitive type of thing.
Yeah.
Because I do think to somebody that doesn't experience it themselves, it's a bit at a little bit too general or too abstract for them to kind of understand that it's um I don't know, diagnosable in a way.
Yeah, to them, they probably only relate to it as an annoyance kind of thing,
Yeah,
not the intense rage.
yeah.
Um, so so okay, so you tend to kind of try not to talk about it. It sounds like because yeah, like many of us experience, it's kind of dismissed or worst case, well, maybe not worst case, but it's sometimes get teased or made fun of for being too sensitive. Um, so okay, so you haven't really talked about it much. When did you actually find out it had a name? Like it was like a official thing that other people have.
Uh, it was probably in high school, I'd say. It's actually funny because I was listening to one of the other episodes, and somebody said that when they found out that it was definable, they found out about it because like maybe they were having some sort of like they're in some sort of situation where it was bothering them so much that they just straight up searched on Google like I am so annoyed by this sound
Yeah.
because I mean I had never really thought to look it up because I just thought it was like a I don't know I just thought it was like a weird tick that I had, but one day I looked it up and then it was just like everything was laid out for me and I was like okay this is kind of good that I can like put a name to this. I'm like
Yeah.
not crazy. It's not just me.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a lot of it ends up being a Google search or somebody shares a link or something, and that's how we find out about it. And then many of us just kind of can't stop googling it because it's like kind of fascinating. It answers a lot of questions about our lives, but also raises a few, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it
Um,
definitely did.
did you when you found out that it had a name? Did you share it with your family members and stuff?
I did with my mom because my mom is probably I mean I'm not for sure, but I suspect that my mom has it in some way too.
Ah.
And what the thing that's a little bizarre about it to me though is she says that as she's gotten older, I don't really know if it's like more of a she can manage it better or if the sounds themselves don't bother her as much. She said that it seems like from what I know her spectrum of trigger sounds is a little bit smaller than mine though, but it seems like a little bit too similar to be like a coincidence. So I've
Mhm.
kind of over time, the more I've learned about it, I've shared more with her because I don't know, she was always very interested in it from the beginning when I kind of started to try to get to the root of the whole thing. But yeah, since besides that, I've shared with her and like a few close friends and my girlfriend too, because I mean, spending so
You
much
kind
time
of need to
around
do that.
here,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And it's I'm very fortunate though because like I said, a lot of people um, don't really take it seriously, but um, a lot of people that know me really well can see that it's not like completely normal. So
So most of the people close to you don't tease you about it. They do take it somewhat seriously. If you know, if they don't, aren't they, if they're probably not able to hide all the mask all the triggers or avoid all the triggers, but at least they take it seriously. And that probably makes a difference.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Because I growing up, I had some friends that would like purposely like try to get to me with those kind of things, but no, that doesn't really happen with people that act, kind of take it more seriously, I guess.
Right, right, right. And I guess so. How did it? When did you kind of first notice it? It seems like um, it seemed you said earlier that your mom would drop you off and say, "I don't know how he gets through the day." How early was that you were noticing this?
My first memories are probably around ages 7 or 8, and the main thing was my sister was kind of like it wasn't one thing she did. She kind of like did all of the things like when I was
Mm,
younger. She the big one though that I remember when I was younger was her humming. She would hum all the time. And when I was younger, I was like 7 at the time, and she would have been like 11 or 12. She liked to kind of exaggerate it more because it was fun for her to like pick on her little brother a little bit.
mhm.
But yeah, as time has gone on, she realized that it wasn't just like a thing that she could tease me on, and it wasn't it was like it was honestly like a big source of a lot of our arguments when we were really
Hmm.
young. So those are
But
the
now
earliest
she,
memories though, yeah.
right. But now she's seen the errors of her ways and doesn't do that anymore. Hopefully,
No, no, not
yeah.
anymore. No.
So when it started with your sister, did it start to expand as you got older?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely did. Because, well, around the same time, well, yeah, because my sister would do that, and then she would also chew really loudly.
Mm,
And my sister really loved peaches, particularly when we were
okay,
younger, and
right.
she would eat peaches all the time, and I just could not stand to be around it. And then I feel like the more that bothered me, the more I was kind of aware of it being something that could happen in the day, so I'd be more aware of other people chewing. And honestly, to this point, like a lot of people, and to my understanding, the big thing is like like loud chewers or people chewing with their mouth open or something. But I really can't even stand the sound of somebody chewing like with their mouth closed. That
Yeah.
even that's a big one for me.
No, yeah. There's that. There's the swallowing. There's a lot of stuff around that area, around that process
Yeah.
of consuming food that's not ideal. And so I'm assuming then your parents got kind of like thrown into the mix in terms of being triggers, or less so.
Less so, definitely. Well, yeah, nothing too, nothing too horrible. But I feel like
Okay.
well, I kind of was able growing up to spend a lot of time alone, and I feel like as I'm getting older, it's kind of starting to make a little bit more sense why, because it's just like it was. I needed a lot of time by myself to just kind of really be able to relax because I felt like
Decompress and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, because I
yeah.
had a lot of
It's not
trouble
just.
with. I'm sorry, you
Sorry,
go.
go on. I was just gonna say, not just not just be alone to avoid sounds, but probably decompress from situations where you were being triggered. So, yeah, I can see how you would need extra time
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah, it does sometimes take a little bit of time because I feel like sometimes if like something happens kind of like earlier in my day, it kind of I kind of carry it with me for the rest of the day a little bit.
Right. And so, what were you saying earlier about after we were talking about how you don't need a lot of time alone, um, and it start to make sense, I guess, as you got older, why you had to
Yeah,
do that.
yeah. Well, yeah, because I had a bit of I had some problems socially growing up because of it. Because my best friend actually for a really long time he was like this like really intense breather, and it was like to the point where like I wouldn't really want to like spend a lot of time around him, and like and then it was like what I was saying, I start to kind of notice it in other people too. So then it became like a thing where if I was going into a social situation or something, I would be looking for it more instead of
Mm,
noticing it. So then I felt like I was just kind of like, and it's still like this, that I just feel like I'm kind of looking for it a lot of the time, which kind of it's like really a thing like whether or not I notice, but I feel like a lot of the time I'm like looking for it.
becomes a bit of a spiral. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so that best friend of yours, did that start to wear on on your friendship with him?
Well,
Like how did?
this was when I was really young, but
Okay.
it was a thing though where like I didn't really I was like a little kid, but like it was like a thing where like I didn't really want to go to his house after a while,
Yeah.
it was that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
How did it start to affect? Well, how did it affect school? I guess through elementary through high school. Like in
um,
terms of grades and stuff, were you super distracted, or you somehow a lot of people somehow school didn't bother them so much, and they were able to make it out alive. But curious how it went for you.
it really like I guess it depended on like the people that were sitting like right next to me, because through grade school and high school I did have problems, but it wasn't like every single class that I would be in. But there would be a lot of times I can remember being in like middle school and high school where it would be like somebody on my right was like breathing really loud, and then a lot of kids we would have our backpacks in our classes, and like there would be the kid like shaking his leg like against his backpack, and so it'd be like that rustling sound. And then
Mm.
also like I couldn't really stand looking at people shaking their legs either, so I'd kind of
So the
be
visual
like,
triggers were hitting you from that age too.
oh yeah, yeah, those are still definitely a big one for me. But I do remember those pretty early on. But it would be like a thing where there'd be somebody over there and somebody over there, and I'd put like both of my thumbs in my ears. But then there's like also like the visual triggers, so I'd be like using my fingers to like cover my eyes too. So like at that point, I'm just not really like I there's just like kind of no chance of focusing at that point on the
Right.
material or whatever. So
Gotcha. And people now are seeing you and probably noticing the behavior and are um, maybe starting to tease at that point, or at least asking questions, maybe.
yeah, no, I think I kind of slipped under the radar a little bit.
Okay.
I don't because with despite like it having the effect of like the fight or flight response, I never really like let myself. I've always been okay about not getting aggressive with people. I've tended to be able to remove myself from the situation as opposed to like trying to get somebody to stop. I've never really had a problem with like lashing out on people, except like I said, like my sister when I was younger. But other than that, I don't think anybody really. I mean, maybe somebody was looking at me and thinking that I looked weird, but I don't think they would have thought that was why.
Yeah, gotcha. And so, yeah, other than like shoving your fingers in your ears, and that. Did you start to develop any other coping mechanisms, maybe other than leaving situation, or maybe I don't know, using headphones or any kind of um, yeah, or any of the. Well, I guess those are the main coping mechanisms. I guess that we have. I'm just curious how you made it, or maybe make up excuses to leave the classroom. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I never used headphones at that point. Like I said, I've only started to do that recently. But yeah. See, the thing is, I don't think that I have a good way of coping without removing myself. So most of the time now and then, it's just kind of like sitting through it. Or if I have the option to leave, then I will. But
What do you do
mm,
when you sit through it? Like, do you just let it um, fester inside, or is there any? I've heard some people will kind of like try to focus on something in the room and try to keep their mind off of the sound. Curious what you do, if you do anything.
yeah, I feel like a lot of the time, unfortunately, I just kind of let it fester a bit. But I have tried to like redirect my focus onto other things, but I feel like sometimes that would make me even more agitated because I would like try to focus on something else and then I would get upset that I couldn't focus on the other thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then I would just get it would just kind of like snowball. So most of the time it was a lot of just like waiting it out. But like it was like the moment that like bell rang when I was a kid or something. It was like just like so much relief, you know.
Right. 'Cause then you only have your sister to avoid to deal with when you get home. So, which
Yeah.
is probably better than entire class.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so as you were getting older through school, how did your social circles kind of play out? Did it start to limit who you were able to hang out with?
Um Not really, no, because most of the friends that I started to make from I guess like ages like 13 on were all my musician friends.
Mm,
So we would just play music all the time. And yeah, no, like a lot of the friends I had from then on weren't a lot of friends that I would hang out with that much. Like there were a lot of friends that I would play music with, and that was kind of it for a lot of them. So it was like in a scenario where like we're and especially at that time like we're playing like really loud music, so there's like you can't hear anything else. So
right.
yeah.
Did the music you were listening to or making maybe somehow influenced by misophonia, like louder, more noisy kind of music was you felt better with, or do you think it's totally random? It's totally taste.
I when I was younger, definitely I would listen to a lot of louder music. I don't really anymore, but I think even like because I guess since I got to college, I started playing like a lot of jazz and stuff. But I still listen to that music on like the full volume in my car and at home and in my headphones and stuff. I always find myself getting all the way like getting the volume all the way up because I don't know. I think I guess it's more manifest in the way that I listen to music because I like to be able to completely drown out all other sound with it.
Right, right. Um, and how about I guess how about maybe your current girlfriend? Well, actually, maybe before that, did it start to affect like relationships that you had growing up?
Well, actually, growing up, I never really, I never really did that much, especially like in high school. I was, like I said, I was just like spending a lot of time in high school, like by myself and making
Hmm.
music and stuff. That's kind of what I was doing at that time. And actually, it's kind of interesting because I never really like thought that would I never really thought that that would kind of factor into the whole thing, but because I think the my I guess my reactions to things and the certain triggers like kind of wax and wane a little bit. Like certain ones like kind of like phase in to be like the really prominent ones that are bothering me, and then like it's like I don't know if you have like kind of like a push and pull with these things, but I've kind of experienced that a little bit.
So you've had like over, oh, you mean over a period of like months or years kind of thing? Like you have some triggers that are kind of like are bigger ones for you, and other times it's different triggers in, or are you talking about within a day or within a moment?
I guess just like over like longer periods of
Yeah.
time, because when I was younger, it used to be different ones than it is now, and like I think it's like the ones that I'm exposed to the most are the ones that are the most triggering to me.
Yeah, I've never, I guess, yeah, I've never heard of it or thought about it in terms of groups of triggers kind of going up and down over time. It just, everyone just kind of thinks of it as constant, like a uh, second law of thermodynamics. It just keeps getting worse, more entropy. um,
Yeah,
but I mean, that makes sense that it would be um, based on whatever you're most exposed to. I'm curious if you start to get your, if you start to be around your childhood triggers more, if those would just come back just like before.
yeah, probably. Because I feel like when I think about those sounds, like in retrospect, I'm like that couldn't be that bad, but like I feel like
Oh
if
yeah,
I were
no, it
actually
would
in the
be.
situation, it would be completely
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And did your did your family member, well, maybe not your sister, but did they actively try to not trigger you growing up, even before you knew it had a name?
Um, I don't,
I guess your
I
parents
don't
didn't
think
really trigger
so.
you, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I think my mom did because a big one, because my mom used to do like the humming thing a lot too,
Hmm.
not as much, but, and then also like the chewing thing. But my mom is, I'm kind of like blessed because my mom's just like very quiet, like, and like does not make a lot of noise of any kind all the time. So it's, I got kind of lucky there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and I guess yeah, when we bring it back to your current girlfriend, like how did you broach the subject?
Well, it's funny because it was something that I didn't really want to ever talk about unless it like something like really, it was like something I was kind of always trying to avoid, but it was like there
Until it
was,
inevitably has to come out.
yeah, it was like it was just like a one day like just like watching TV kind of thing where I started to notice the breathing, and then I started to like fixate on it a lot and a lot and a lot, and then it got to a point where I was like, okay, I definitely need to like make it known that I suffer from this thing that this person may or may not even believe is a real thing, but you know, but yeah, like I said, she's super supportive about it too. It was funny because yesterday, I was supposed to actually have my first like consultation, like meet with a doctor for the first time. Um, I ended up having to reschedule, but we were gonna actually go to New York, not New York City, but uh, city outside of New York City, which is like quite a few hours away, and I had to reschedule. But yeah, we were gonna do that yesterday, and I was almost gonna time out kind of perfect for this. But yeah, she's been helping me a lot, trying to find like someone to go to see about it, and it's kind of been hard because there's not really a lot of doctors that really know how to or treat it at all, or even know about it. So
Yeah, it ends up being a bit of a crapshoot. Some people get lucky, others get completely dismissed. And almost the worst ones are the ones who just start to Google it like in real time and are just come up with all kinds of, they don't really know what to make of it, and then they start giving weird advice. So Yeah, hopefully this one will work out for you.
Yeah, I was like I said before, I've never actually really talked to anybody else that experiences it. I was kind of wondering if you had ever found yourself in a situation with like a professional.
Not no, not for misophonia. I mean, I know a number of audiologists and actually mainly audiologists through the Misophonia Association convention that I've been to, but and just experiences I've heard here on shows. Some people, so yeah, some people get lucky and find somebody who knows and is actually also able to give them good advice. But yeah, a lot of the cases, it just people that sufferers go to don't really know what's going on. So you tend you it depends how how if you're totally focused on looking for someone who knows misophonia, it ends up being like you might have to go to a number of different providers or ask in advance. So what do you hope to get out of it then? Like somebody to get, help you with coping mechanisms, or just talk it through regularly with somebody.
Yeah, because that's actually funny you mentioned that because I was thinking about it before I was supposed to go, and I was like kind of thinking I was like what can like really be done from this? Like what can I actually like what is actually going to help me? So it's kind of it's kind of one of those things where it was like I don't even know what I possibly could like I don't really know what kind of help I can get, but like if somebody is saying that they can help treat in whatever way, I'm kind of like just willing
Hmm.
to try anything at this point. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I hope you find somebody who's well versed and can give you some options. I mean, obviously, there's we know there's no cure, there's no like um, officially sanctioned treatment, but there are
Yeah.
people who can kind of maybe help you cope, whether it's through CBT or other other therapeutic methods. I'm not a doctor, so nobody should come to me for advice,
Yeah.
but yeah, most people it ends up yeah, I mean it's all the coping, we all live with the coping mechanisms that you can expect, that you've employed yourself. And yeah, honestly, just talking about it with others, that sounds like you don't know anybody else who has misophonia personally in your life other than maybe your mom.
Yeah. Yeah, no one. No.
I wonder if this might be this might be kind of too early, or something that you might not be ready for. But UCLA, there is a misophonia. I had somebody on the podcast who started the misophonia support group there for students. I wonder if it was easy to kind of make a posting or something at your school saying, you're interested in kind of a support group for misophones. You might be able to find people who might be living with it in the shadows, or yeah, that
Yeah.
might be a way to kind of have someone to talk to who's like you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are people like it, like you said, just like that, like to keep quiet about it. It's kind of unfortunate. It's kind of a small school, but I feel like if there was a place where you might find more than usual, it might be at my school. So, yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that would be interesting. It's at a place that a music school where people are generally very conscious of sound. Obviously, that might be an interesting experiment to see how many people there are misophones. Um,
yeah,
cool. So I guess have you thought about so you're in, I guess you said your second year or so. Have you thought about what kind of work you want to do after? Is it straight up playing music, writing music? This is kind of interesting because a lot of people are in school and they're worried about going into kind of an open office corporate environment, but it doesn't sound like that was exactly the path that you would be going down. Have you thought about what kind of work you want to do later, and whether it would be miso friendly?
yeah. Well, I haven't really thought about whether or not that. I don't know. I kind of take these experiences as they come, as a pertains to misophonia. But I'm actually in a music therapy major right now. So there's a that's a it's a pretty wide range of like patients I could possibly be working with after I graduate. Um, but I will generally be playing music at work, which is uh, I feel like that's like the best possible thing I could think. Like I have to kind of make sound like in a corporate setting, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
So
what kind of things do music therapists, for people who don't know, what kind of things do music therapists treat?
yeah, it's a very very wide range,
Hmm.
and there are a lot of people that have more of their specific avenue as it pertains to that. Um, but it can be anything from newborn babies to adults with Alzheimer's to mental health patients. It can be really any wide range of things, and it's generally like it's um, it has a lot of different. The way that the therapy is administered is really dependent on the client themselves because a lot of people, so maybe sometimes your clients are actually musicians, so like you can kind of engage in like a creative or performative music kind of process, and then there are other people that aren't as aren't musicians or aren't capable of singing or something where the music is more performed to them as opposed to performed
Mm,
together. So yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I wonder if there is a music therapy for misophonia that you'll discover and win a Nobel Prize for. That might be an interesting way this all comes to a conclusion.
Yeah, it was all for that.
Um, yeah, interesting. Let's see. Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what your therapist or audiologist, when you end up going to them, says. Um, how about I guess we talked about it at school that you kind of generally leave if you need to.
Yeah.
Have you explored like accommodations at school, like official accommodations? I would think that a school that where there's a music therapy major might be amenable, even more amenable than some, to kind of like helping people take exams or whatever in a separate room. Have you actually? I guess how are exams at your college? So things are super small there, which could be good and bad. Is,
Yeah,
is
definitely good
how do
and
they
bad.
go? And yeah, are you able to kind of get any kind of accommodations, or have you tried to ask?
I've never asked. We, I, I've kind of school hasn't been as bad as it was when I was growing up in
Mhm.
college, so I've never really felt like a really strong need to like reach out to somebody about that. But well, right now it's completely fine because I just can do it from my house alone. So like
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have to worry about anybody sitting next to me. So
So what I'm curious, and why was it your girlfriend that compelled you to seek out a therapist? I'm curious why you decided to go now. Maybe you just felt like this, it's time to be more assertive about this. This is a real thing. It's not going to go anywhere. Um, uh, yeah, I'm just curious what compelled you to finally make that move to go try to see a therapist.
um, well, it was different with like spending a lot of time here, like because I live with my girlfriend here, and last year I was living by myself, and I mean I didn't have any problems when I was by myself.
All right.
Other than the one thing was living in apartments is music from other apartments, like that
Mm-hmm.
low bass frequency. That one is a big one for me. But I mean, other than that, like I don't need to be present for anybody in that scenario. I can put my headphones in, like listen to music, whatever, watch Netflix or whatever if I'm in my apartment. But
Right.
in this kind of scenario, it was something that I was having to deal with more frequently and the in the home, which was different as opposed to like long ago when I was a kid with my sister and whatever. But my siblings were a lot older than me, so they left when I was like they went to college and moved out when I was super young. So like
Mm.
that wasn't something that was pervasive through my entire childhood. But again, like I was saying, it was more of like it's a thing that I'm dealing with more on a regular basis in the home, which I'm not used to.
Hmm.
So it's like I think it's just it was I felt more compelled to find help or to talk to people about it because it was like affecting just my comfortability when I'm at home, which is, where you want to feel the most comfortable. So,
Right. Right. Did your girlfriend know about this when you guys decided to move in together, or was that something that just kind of came up as you were starting to watch movies regularly at home?
uh, no, she didn't know about it until after, because
Okay.
to be honest, there was nothing really ever that triggered me too much. I mean, there was the food thing, but the thing about that is like there's like a deadline, like when it's gonna stop, that it will stop, as opposed to other types of sounds. So, like I said, it was something that I could kind of just like let fester in me for
Yeah.
like 45 minutes, but it was
No, and
never like a
that's
big enough deal to bring up, I guess.
yeah, that's the coping mechanism that I've mentioned that people have mentioned on the show is just knowing that something's going to end in advance and kind of preparing your mind for that or reminding your mind that it will end soon can be well, it's not going to hurt. It can only
Yeah,
benefit.
yeah.
Just letting your mind know that nothing's going to come and attack you during that time. How are like how are holidays with your with your family? It sounds like you have more than just that one sister, right? Is it um around Thanksgiving and Christmas or whatever? Is it rough? Is it manageable?
Um, well, yeah, I have one other brother, but usually for big holidays, because my brother doesn't live in Cleveland either, and so it's kind of like we all come back for like those major holidays, and but we have a really big extended family, so a lot of those holidays are spent with like I swear it's like 50 people at Thanksgiving. It's
Mm,
like it's like really crazy, but like I don't mind those situations because I really like loud sounds,
hmm.
and it's more about the quiet rooms where things are a little bit bothersome. But yeah, so those for those types of things, I don't have much of a problem, but in the more quiet, like at home, like just immediate family kind of settings, it is a bit of a problem. But like I said, it's like with eating, I get the same feelings of rage, but it's like it's more of like I'm just able to remind myself more that I'm not going to have to deal with it for that much longer.
Right, right.
So, yeah.
No, that's good advice. Well, yeah, yeah, I'm curious. We're heading up uh, towards the hour. I'm curious. Yeah, now like want to turn over to you. Like, do you have anything you want to any final thing you want to let listeners know? I know this is the first time you've talked to anybody about misophonia, but
Carry a set of earplugs,
good
definitely,
advice.
if
Yeah,
you
actually,
can.
so I keep talking about earbuds, but a lot of earplugs are usually not enough for me. I'm curious if you carry earplugs around. I'm assuming you probably do as a musician. So it's good to have a pair, especially if you're right next to the drummer. But
Yeah,
does that help earplugs?
yeah, it does.
Do you have like a
I
go-to brand that you swear by?
no, I generally just go for like the packs of that you can get at like a
Walgreens or
drugstore,
something?
yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Those work good for me, and I usually like cut the ends off so people can't see them, that kind of thing.
Ah,
So
gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
kind of blends in. Like my hair is a little long too, so like you can't really see them under. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing about that is like it's a little bit with the thing that bothers me about that is just like how much frequency range is like cut off. It's like very like they can get like kind of muffled. So I do want to get some more like custom fitted ones soon.
Yeah. Yeah, they can. Yeah, there's all kinds of earplugs you can get, depending on how much you want to pay, and how customized you want them to be. So yeah, very cool. Well, yeah, Patrick, thanks for coming on. This is really interesting. Really interesting to get a perspective from a music major and someone going to music therapy. That's really interesting. And yeah, I hope it was good to talk about it. It's always good to have somebody who's never talked about it with anyone before. So hopefully this was helpful.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on. This is a very cool thing that you're doing because it was a like about a month ago. I was just like, I wonder if there's a podcast about this, and there was.
Oh, is that I was going to ask? Is that literally kind of what you asked yourself if there was a podcast about it?
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
typed in misophonia on the podcast app, and this was the first thing that came up. And I was
right.
like, there's a whole entire podcast dedicated to this.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Thank you, Patrick. So glad you came on and shared your story. If you liked this episode, please leave a quick review or just hit the 5 stars wherever you listen to this podcast. Find us on social media at Misophonia Podcast on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, or Misophonia Show on Twitter. You can find all the links on the website, misophoniapodcast.com, and you can contact me from there if you like. Music, as always, is by Moby, and until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.